Welcome to the Deep Dive. We dig into the sources you send us articles, notes, research, and pull out the core insights, basically giving you the shortcut to getting up to speed. I'm your host, ready to get into the material you've shared.
And I'm here to help unpack all that information, finding the practical takeaways within those documents specifically for you.
Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into something pretty fundamental, but often tricky. Building a monthly budget that actually works. We're using the sources you sent over. And it seems like it's not just about, crunching numbers. The sources really frame budgeting as this powerful tool, a way to cut down on financial stress, get real clarity, and basically lay the groundwork to hit your big goals.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The material you've got positions budgeting less as a restriction and more as, well, liberating, really. It's about taking control, being intentional, moving from just reacting to your finances to actively guiding them where you want them to go.
So our mission here is to unpack these sources you gave us. We want to pull out the most important steps, maybe some surprising bits, and the really practical tips so you can build a budget and actually stick to it that fits your life.
All right, let's start right at the core then. What's the main idea, the foundational principle that these sources keep emphasizing?
They're pretty unified on this. Budgeting is fundamentally about intentional planning. It's that conscious process of deciding beforehand how you're going to spend and save, making sure those choices line up with your own financial goals. You shift from just watching things happen to being the manager.
And why is that so important? What are the big benefits the sources highlight, the real motivators?
Well, beyond just, knowing where the money goes, like in Jane's example, she was shocked by her dining out spend. The sources really hammer home the clarity it brings.
Ah, clarity.
Yeah, it cuts through the guesswork, it shows you your actual financial situation, and that clarity, they argue, is the foundation for everything else. That makes a lot of sense because once you can see clearly, you can actually start aiming for something specific.
Exactly. Which leads right into the next big point in your sources. Financial goals suddenly become reachable. Budgeting forces you to prioritize spending so that you can save for that trip or the house deposit or, build up that retirement fund. It's the mechanism for progress.
And they also talk about the feeling of security, right? Avoiding debt, having a safety net.
Oh, absolutely. The
Yeah.
sources are really strong on this point. Budgeting builds financial resilience. Having that emergency cushion means unexpected things, a car repair, whatever, don't automatically throw you off course or push you into debt.
Like John's story.
Right? John's story, paying off debt and saving for a car. The sources point out this gave him real peace of mind. It's not just numbers, it's the emotional side too.
Okay, that why is compelling. Control, peace of mind, achieving goals. But like you said, it's not just theory. How do we actually do this? What's the very first concrete step the sources say you need to take?
Your sources all seem to agree. The absolute first step is setting clear financial goals. You can think of them as your financial GPS, basically. Without a destination, any spending plan is just wandering.
And they break these down, don't they, into like near-term stuff and bigger, further out ambitions.
Exactly. They talk about short-term goals, things usually achievable within a year, maybe saving for that vacation, knocking out a small specific debt, or building just a small starter emergency fund, perhaps just a few $100s to begin with.
And then the long-term goals. Those take more time, more money, the big life stuff, buying a home, kids' education, and the really big one, retirement.
And what's really helpful is how the sources bring in the SMART framework for goal setting. They stress that goals need to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
SMART goals, right.
Yeah, because it forces you to actually think through the how and the when, turns vague wishes into concrete plans.
I liked the examples in the sources showing this. Sarah didn't just say, save money. She had a specific goal. Pay off X credit card in 6 months. And she started planning for a house down payment in 5 years. That specificity makes it real.
And Mark's vacation goal is such a classic SMART example. Save $3,000 for Hawaii by saving $250 a month for 12 months. It's crystal clear the target, the method, the amount, the deadline. That's the power the sources see in the SMART approach. It makes the goal actionable.
It's interesting, isn't it, how just applying that structure to a general desire makes it feel so much more doable, less like a distant dream.
Totally agree. Okay, so goals are set, you know your destination. The next thing the sources really dig into is figuring out your starting point, right? Understanding your current financial landscape, tracking income and expenses.
Yeah, your sources say this is absolutely non-negotiable. You have to get a clear picture of all the money coming in. Your main salary, sure, but also any side hustles, investment income, maybe passive stuff like rent. Emma's example was good. She pulled together her salary, tutoring income, and rental income for the full view. And then the flip side, tracking where it's all going.
Mm-hmm. The sources provide a structured approach here. First, record everything. No expense too small. That's a key point they make. Then categorize it. They highlight the difference between fixed expenses, the predictable stuff like rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, loan payments,
Right, the must-pays.
and then the variable expenses, things that fluctuate like groceries, eating out, entertainment, personal care, plus, discretionary spending. And crucially, making sure savings and investments are treated as categories too.
Okay.
And the sources really emphasize reviewing these categories regularly, like weekly or monthly check-ins.
Yeah.
Because that's where you spot the patterns. Mike's example nails this. By categorizing, he saw his dining out spend was way out of whack compared to groceries. That visibility instantly showed him where to adjust.
And Lisa's review found that even with manageable fixed costs, her variable spending, especially eating out, was blowing her budget. So she set a specific cap for that category. It shows how the tracking directly informs the plan you make.
Precisely. Knowing exactly where the money's flowing gives you the power to actually redirect it where you want it to go.
Which brings us neatly to the main event, I guess. Taking all that info, income, expenses, goals, and actually creating the budget, the financial blueprint, as the sources call it.
Right. According to the sources, this involves taking the numbers from your tracking, calculate your total income, add up all those fixed costs, get a realistic estimate for your variable spending based on past tracking and your new goals.
And this seems to be where the sources stress a really critical mindset shift. Allocating money for savings and investments isn't just about what's left over at the end of the month. It's treated as a priority, built into the budget right after the necessities.
Absolutely. They list key areas for allocation.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely building that emergency fund, aiming for 6 months of essential living expenses. They often bring up retirement savings, with some sources suggesting aiming for maybe 15% of your pre-tax income as a common guideline.
Okay, 15%.
And then other investment opportunities, plus specific funds for those short-term goals you set, earlier vacations, repairs, bigger purchases.
Jane's example gave a percentage breakdown, didn't it? Like 50% fixed, 30% variable, 20% saving investments. Is that typical?
It's one approach the sources mention, sort of a flexible guideline like the 50-30-20 rule. The main point is creating a balanced budget that truly reflects your specific income, your expenses, and crucially, your personal priorities.
Gotcha. Okay, so mapping all this out. It can sound like a lot of work, maybe intimidating with spreadsheets and tracking everything manually. Step 4 in the sources seems to address this directly, using tools to make it easier.
Yeah, they definitely tackle that. They basically compare the two main avenues, using dedicated budgeting apps versus using spreadsheets like Excel. Budgeting apps, the sources explain, often give you real-time tracking because they can link directly to your bank accounts. Many can automatically categorize expenses, which saves time, and they often have features specifically for tracking progress towards your goals.
And they name a few popular ones people might recognize. Mint comes up free, pretty comprehensive, tracks bills, credit scores even. YNAB, you need a budget that once paid, but focuses on being proactive, assigning every dollar a job. And Every Dollar, which is associated with Dave Ramsey, pushing a zero-based budget approach. Tom's example mentioned using Mint and how the visual graphs really helped him understand his spending patterns quickly.
Right. And then on the other side, you've got spreadsheets like Excel. The big advantage there, according to the sources, is customization. You can build it exactly the way you want. You can do really detailed analysis with formulas, create specific charts, whatever works for you visually.
The sources give pretty clear steps for starting with Excel, too. Set up columns for income, expense categories, savings, use basic formulas for totals, track it monthly.
Yeah.
Sarah's example highlighted this. She picked Excel because she liked being able to tailor it and visualize her progress in her own way.
So the main takeaway from the sources regarding tools seems to be, there's no single best tool. It really depends on your personal preference. Are you looking for automation, or do you want that high level of customization? The best tool is simply the one you'll actually use consistently.
Right, the one you stick with. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've built the budget, maybe picked a tool. Now the sources are really clear. This isn't a set it and forget it kind of thing. Step 5 is all about adjusting and monitoring, keeping the budget dynamic, a living document.
Yeah, this is where the rubber meets the road, as they say. Your sources stress that regular reviews are absolutely essential. You need to schedule time, probably monthly, to sit down and compare. What did I plan to spend in each category versus what did I actually spend?
And then this is key, adjust based on what you find out. Maria's story is a perfect example they give. She kept overspending on groceries. Instead of just feeling bad, she adjusted her grocery budget up to be more realistic and then found that extra money by trimming her entertainment spending a bit. It shows you need that flexibility.
Exactly. It's not about hitting it perfectly the first time. It's about iterating, refining. And the sources offered some good strategies for staying on track during the month, too. Using technology helps real-time tracking apps or setting up alerts from your bank if you're nearing a spending limit in a category.
They also mention accountability, maybe sharing your goals or just your progress with someone you trust, a partner or a friend.
And another point the sources make, which I think is quite powerful, is celebrating the small wins. Giving yourself small, maybe non-financial rewards when you hit milestones or stick to the plan. Daniel's example was nice, celebrating 3 months of solid budgeting with just a family picnic. It reinforces the good habits.
That makes sense.
They also remind you to revisit your goals periodically because life changes, priorities shift.
Mhm.
Kim's example showed this. Once she paid off her debt, she adjusted her budget to start building a vacation fund. The budget needs to evolve with you.
So flexibility and adapting are really core to making it work long term. But, life happens. Unexpected costs crop up. Income isn't always steady. Step 6 deals with handling those challenges, which the sources acknowledge are pretty much inevitable.
Right, and this is where that earlier preparation really pays off. For unexpected expenses, the sources circle back strongly to the emergency fund. That 3 to 6 months of essential expenses is your first line of defense. If something unexpected hits, you use the fund, then you adjust your current month's budget quickly. Maybe cut back on non-essentials temporarily to minimize the damage and start rebuilding that fund. Jake's story, dipping into his emergency fund for his pet surgery and then tightening his belt for a bit, shows exactly how this works.
Okay, that makes sense for unexpected hits. What about managing irregular income? That's a reality for freelancers, gig
The
workers.
sources have some smart strategies for that, too. They suggest calculating an average income based on several past months to set a realistic baseline for your budget. Then, create a minimum budget covering just the absolute necessities based on your lowest earning months. That ensures the essentials are always covered.
So you have a floor.
Exactly. And then you treat the fluctuations strategically.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a higher income month, you save a larger portion, maybe direct windfalls straight into savings or paying down debt faster. This helps smooth out the peaks and valleys.
That requires discipline, though, right?
Oh yeah, discipline is key here. Sticking to your baseline budget, even when you get a big payment, rather than immediately inflating your lifestyle. Sarah, the freelance graphic designer example, illustrates this where she averages her income, saves aggressively during good months, and creates stability that way.
So it's about creating systems to manage that unpredictability, using the budget foundation the sources describe. And speaking of foundations, that brings us to step 7, really focusing on building those emergency funds and other savings.
Yes, and the sources really can't overstate the importance of that emergency fund. They call it the ultimate financial safety net. It provides peace of mind, stops unexpected costs from turning into debt, gives stability if you lose income, and even offers the flexibility to seize opportunities because you know you have that cushion. Mark's example, losing his job but being okay because of his 3-month emergency fund, really drives this home.
Wow, yeah. And the sources provide really practical tips for actually building savings, right? Not just saying you should have it.
Absolutely. First, set a clear goal, that 3-6 months of essential expenses target. Then, automate your savings. Treat it like any other bill. Have it automatically transferred to a separate savings account right after you get paid. Don't even let yourself think about spending it.
Start small, too, they say.
Yes, start small. Even if it's just $25 or $50 a month, it adds up surprisingly fast and builds the habit. Make use of any windfalls bonuses, tax refunds, gifts. Put a chunk directly into savings. Actively look for unnecessary expenses you can cut and consciously redirect that specific amount to your savings goal. And track your progress visually. Seeing the savings balance grow is incredibly motivating.
Emily's story was a good illustration of starting small. She automated just $100 a month, cut back on eating out, and watching that fund grow built her confidence and sense of control.
Building that savings cushion is probably one of the most impactful outcomes the sources point to for achieving real financial security.
And finally, step 8, which the sources wisely include because it's vital for keeping motivated long-term, celebrating your successes.
Yeah, and this isn't just about being nice to yourself. It's about positive reinforcement. Your sources emphasize rewarding financial milestones. First, define those milestones clearly, maybe hitting your first $1,000 saved or staying on budget for 3 consecutive months.
And then pick rewards that are meaningful to you, but crucially, rewards that don't completely blow up your budget. Maybe a nice dinner out that you actually budget for, a weekend getaway, buying that book you wanted. Lily using a spa day to celebrate saving $2,000 is a perfect example. It's planned, enjoyable, and doesn't derail her progress.
Mm-hmm. And they also mentioned just recognizing progress in other ways. Maybe keeping a financial journal to look back on how far you've come, creating a vision board for your goals, sharing your successes with someone supportive, and remembering to celebrate non-monetary wins too, like consistently sticking to the budget or just being more mindful about spending. Daniel's picnic celebration comes back here, simple but effective.
It really does cement those positive habits, doesn't it? Makes the whole process feel less like a chore and more like, well, an achievement. Helps you stay committed.
Absolutely. It reframes the experience as rewarding, not just restrictive.
So looking back over this whole deep dive into your sources, we've covered the why of budgeting clarity, goals, peace of mind. We walked through setting the SMART goals, tracking your income and expenses, actually building the budget plan, using tools to help, keeping it alive with adjustments, handling unexpected challenges, building up that crucial savings buffer, and importantly, celebrating the progress.
Your sources really laid out a comprehensive roadmap. Distilling it down, the core best practices are pretty clear. Know your starting point. Define your destination with SMART goals. Track everything, income and expenses. Build a realistic plan that prioritizes saving. Leverage tools. Be ready to adjust and monitor constantly. Build that emergency fund. And consciously celebrate your wins. Julia's story, seeing her savings grow and celebrating with her family, really captures that positive cycle.
And the sources make it clear this isn't just a temporary project, right? It's about establishing ongoing financial wellness, thinking of budgeting as a sustainable lifestyle.
It's exactly. They highlight strategies for making it stick long-term. Keep learning about personal finance. Schedule deeper reviews periodically, maybe quarterly or twice a year. Practice mindful spending, constantly asking, does this purchase align with my goals? Keep prioritizing growth, like through investing. And don't hesitate to seek professional advice when things get more complex, like Ryan did when planning for retirement.
It definitely takes dedication and that flexibility we talked about, a proactive mindset. But the sources argue pretty convincingly that the payoff in security, freedom, peace of mind is just huge. So thinking about everything we've pulled from your sources today, what does it all boil down to? If budgeting really is this blueprint, this map towards financial freedom and security that the sources describe, what's one aha moment or maybe one small immediate action step that you listening could take, like right now, today, to shift from just understanding the plan to actually starting to build that more secure financial future for yourself?